So, in just the last year, we have seen several massive failures from gaming studios in the gaming industry. Our first victim was Concord, and this was Sony's major hero shooter that was set to, come out and compete against the other MOBAs and hero shooters of that genre. But unfortunately, it was riddled with technical issues and just near endless Twitter drama, and ultimately it ended the whole thing quicker than it ever intended to be. More recently, we had BioWare's Dragon Age: The Veilguard, which received honestly a lot of very polarizing reviews. Some people praised its diverse cast and relatively decent story, while others completely hated the narrative direction of the game, and even went so far to say that there was no, actual player choice in the game, which is what BioWare is known for with their Mass Effect titles and previous Dragon Age titles. And to add insult to injury, fans were pretty much blamed for the game's lack of success. It was ultimately viewed as a disappointment as sales came in at about 50% less than what EA was actually expecting, and most of you guys who know anything about finance know that that means they pretty much lost a crap ton of money.
Thanks, Captain Obvious.
And then last but not least, we have our honorable mention for probably one of the worst debacles, which was the Suicide Kill the Justice League game. And that game honestly just had the most half-baked story. It was completely undercooked, and they had all the source material and stuff in the world to actually flesh it out, and they just completely missed the mark, and the game was pretty much dead after a couple weeks. And even with the colossal failures of a lot of these projects, I don't even think that they were the biggest sign that gamers are starting to lose trust in AAA studios. I actually think the biggest sign of this has been the massive influx of retro gaming handhelds and third-party consoles that are now coming in portable packages and allowing players to play their favorite games. It seems like every day there's a new handheld or some new third-party console that comes out that's portable. It's got amazing features. The specs are right in line with, very low-quality PCs, but get the job done for emulation. And we've even actually seen community efforts to either have software ports and firmware upgrades that are, doing the naughty stuff, and even hardware upgrades to older handhelds and consoles. And I think even with all the legal ramifications aside, this has been a very influential thing as far as people coming together in the gaming community for once to actually, relive the good old days, as some people would say. And it's nice to see this type of unity and just type of, peace in the gaming community about what games used to feel like. And so that brings me to my next point, right? And that's that I think that a lot of older games and older consoles were made for gamers and designed for gamers. And I want to be specific here to like the mid 2000s era and back. And I'm not saying like past 2012 we didn't have some banger games, right? But we definitely had a lot larger variety of games that were, just straight to the point. This game's supposed to be fun. There's no agenda pushing that is ruining the game or doing anything like that. And I think that's the biggest influx of what we've seen, right? Is that games have been progressively pushed towards agenda pushing and not towards being fun. And I think a large part of this new culture is simply the fact that gaming studios are now less full of nerds as they used to be. Nowadays, a lot of companies are starting to hire what they call product managers. And essentially, these people are people chasers and they get projects done. And I'm not saying that companies don't need these people, right? Most of the time for a consumer, having these type of people is actually a really good thing because they are going to be the people who make sure that you have a good product that is developed on time and that it meets all your needs. But really, my point is that the more suits that you have in the development cycle of a game, the less it becomes about the game being an art form and the more it becomes about the game being a product. And yes, a game is something you sell to people. A game is something that people want. It is a product. But at the end of the day, it has always been more of an art form and a way of self-expression in fantasy worlds and different ideals, not specific to social justice or political movements. It's just been about the art form of sharing your creativity with someone in the form of a game, of a challenge that they can express themselves. And ultimately what you end up getting is you get a game that is less about crafting an experience and more about marketing and ideology. And so not only are the games being stripped of what makes them fun, they're being completely captured by game developers and studios who simply just want to use these games as their own virtual soapbox. And I also think a probably pretty big factor in it seemingly feeling like gamers are losing trust in large studios is the fact that content creation just leaves such a small room for error for these development studios. Nowadays, hate sells. Hating on pretty much anything on the internet, whether you're wrong or right, it sells on the internet. People want to hear the negativity. People want to hear bad things about something that either they care about or don't care about. And either way, it drives engagement. And see, like, even a smaller creator like me, I make videos about games that I genuinely enjoyed, right? Especially smaller games that I feel like don't get enough attention. But I do think there's an element of like content creators who legitimately, strictly just try to find games to crap on, because again, like I said, like it sells so well, you almost can't blame it. And sometimes I think, honestly, like as someone who works in like a techie space, like all of the drama and just like overall bad press that game developers get, I feel like it is like a lot of pressure to come out with something that is almost, seemingly perfect. And I think when you combine that with, the product managers that I mentioned earlier, who are probably pushing really hard deadlines, on top of watching some of your favorite content creators and people online talk really bad about you and say that your game's terrible, I think it genuinely does make for a pretty like rough situation to be in. And I think that's where you see games that are just, they feel soulless. They're just these large, open, expansive, beautiful looking games, but there's no soul because the soul has been quite literally ripped out of them. See, what this leads to is basically an environment where you are scared to take risks. And I think a fantastic, timeless example of this is the Kingdom Hearts franchise. Now, I think in today's day and age, right? Like, I don't even think Kingdom Hearts would be a thing, because there would be an animal rights group literally like coming to protest about the game every time Mickey Mouse gets hit with a Keyblade, right? And we just wouldn't have games like that because people would be too scared to mesh these ideas together, to have the like, very esoteric light versus dark themes of Final Fantasy, and then melding them with like the happiness, and there's always a, something else on the other side of the rainbow that you get with Disney movies. And we just don't get games like that anymore because people are scared to take risks. They're scared to step outside the box. Product managers don't want to develop anything that would potentially, not make millions and millions of dollars because there's some type of formula, and it's getting ridiculous. And so I think there's tons of games and like just other examples in media of what I'm saying. But at the end of the day, something has to change before we are like completely relying on like developers overseas and all around the world, especially indie developers, to kind of carry gaming. Like, honestly, I haven't even had a chance to play Claire Obscure Expedition 33, and I've heard nothing, literally nothing but praise about this game. And it was made by a small French studio. Sandfall, I believe, is the name. And here's the kicker, right? The game is $50. Yeah, I'm talking to you, Nintendo. So yeah, I mean, that's going to be all I have to say about this today, guys. I'm not really like mad about this. I really just feel like there have been too many games failing for there to be such a massive uptick in what we have technology wise to make games, to be creative. And we should allow people the space to do that. We should allow, developers and companies to make works of art, and we should not be pretty much relegating that to the indie community to carry the industry, and just make more games that are pushing boundaries, that are doing things that we haven't seen before, that are truly creating new IPs that we can all get behind. And I'll be the first one to admit, games are obviously, like I said, they're getting better, like looking, they're getting better, feeling, everything about games is getting better. And of course that's going to mean a more expensive game. And like, honestly, like I was inspired to make this video because of a lot of the comments that I saw in my last post about Nintendo. And it's like, people were absolutely right. Like, games are looking fantastic. And I never thought like I'd be playing like anything in my wildest dreams, like Red Dead Redemption 2 when I was a kid. And seeing games like that, it kind of makes you wonder, like, man, like, I wonder how many ideas out there that just aren't being made because they're not getting a voice to do it because of the current climate of gaming and politics and just everything else, right? And yeah, so like, just because everything's getting more expensive doesn't mean that the media itself has to lose its soul. And don't get me wrong, I think there are a lot of great games that have come out. If anything, I would go as far as to say that games are probably the best that they've ever been, graphics wise, gameplay wise, all of that, right? But there's just a lot of trash mixed in with the really good stuff, and the really bad stuff unfortunately gets pushed up to the top. And I say all that to say, like, I see a lot of videos about people saying that, gaming in general is dying, or that AAA studios are going to kill gaming. And I don't think that's the case. I don't think gaming is ever going to die, ever. I just think that the larger studios are losing their soul, and you need soul in these games to craft the art form. So yeah, that's going to be it for me today, guys. Let me know down in the comments what you think about what I'm saying. Do you think I'm crazy? Do you think I'm an idiot? So yeah, thanks for watching the video today, guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.